Have you ever been to Sideshow Alley? What's your favourite ride? Rides start slow and speed up. They can take you high and low. It might be a bumpy and scary ride, but it's no good asking for the ride to stop so you can get off. Once the ride has begun, you have to stay on and ride it out. Life can be bumpy and scary sometimes. We can have highs and lows. Sometimes things happen to us that put us in a spin, and we might even feel out of control. Life was like that for a man in the Bible. His name was Samson. Once again, the Israelites started worshipping idols and did wrong in God's eyes. God allowed them to be subject for 40 years to the Philistines, who lived along the southern coast and had 5 large cities. One day the angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah and his wife and said, "Even though you've been unable to have children, you will soon give birth to a son. You must not eat grapes or raisins, drink wine or any other alcoholic drink, or eat any forbidden food. Your son's hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. He will begin to rescue Israel from the Philistines." Sometime later, the son they had been promised was born. They named him Samson. The Lord blessed Samson as he grew up, and the Spirit of the Lord stirred in him. His hair was not cut, and he did not drink wine or eat forbidden food. Samson fell in love with a woman called Delilah. Delilah was a Philistine living in the valley of Sorek near to Samson's hometown. The rulers of the Philistines went to Delilah and said, "Entice Samson to tell you what makes him so strong and how he can be overpowered. Then each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." So Delilah asked Samson, "Please tell me what makes you so strong and what it would take to tie you up securely." Samson replied, "If I were tied up with 7 new bowstrings, I would become as weak as anyone else." The Philistine rulers brought Delilah 7 new bowstrings, and she tied Samson up with them. She also hid men in one of the inner rooms of her house. Then she cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you!" But Samson snapped the bowstrings, as string snaps when it is burned by a fire. "You've been making fun of me and telling lies," Delilah told Samson. "Now please tell me how you can be tied up securely." Samson replied, "Oh, if I were tied up with brand new ropes, I would become as weak as anyone else." So Delilah took new ropes and tied him up with them. Delilah cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you!" But again Samson snapped the ropes from his arms as if they were thread. "You've been making fun of me and telling lies. Now tell me how you can be tied up securely," Delilah demanded. Samson replied, "If you were to weave the 7 braids of my hair into the fabric of your loom and tighten it with the loom shuttle, I would become as weak as anyone else." As Samson slept, Delilah wove his hair into her loom. But again Samson broke free. Delilah pouted. "How can you tell me I love you when you don't share your secrets with me? You've made fun of me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." Delilah kept nagging Samson until he shared his secret with her. "My hair has never been cut," he confessed, "for I was dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. If my head were shaved, my strength would leave me." Delilah lulled Samson to sleep with his head in her lap, and then she called in a man to shave off the 7 locks of his hair. The Philistine rulers came with their money in their hands, and Delilah cried out, "Samson, the Philistines have come to capture you." Samson suddenly realized God's power had left him. He was powerless. The Philistines captured him, gouged out his eyes and put him in chains and forced him to grind grain in prison. But before long, his hair began to grow back. The Philistine rulers held a great festival, offering sacrifices and praising their god, Dagon. They said, "Our God has given us victory over our enemy Samson." The half-drunk people demanded, "Bring out Samson so he can amuse us." So Samson was led from prison so they could jeer at him. Samson said to the young servant leading him by the hand, "Place my hands against the pillars that hold up the temple. I want to rest against them." The temple was full of about 3,000 people on the roof. Samson prayed to the Lord, "Sovereign Lord, please strengthen me just one more time. Let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my eyes." Then Samson put his hands on the 2 central pillars that held up the temple. Pushing against them with both hands, he prayed, "Let me die with the Philistines." The temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and all the people. So Samson killed more Philistines when he died than he had his entire lifetime. Samson had judged Israel for 20 years. Samson's life was full of ups and downs, wasn't it? He'd do something right and then do something wrong. There were times when Samson was a great deliverer of God's people, destroying their enemies, and there were times when he did just what he wanted. He made wrong choices. His heart should have been with God, but he gave it to Delilah, and she betrayed him. He went from being strong and feared to being weak and humiliated. He became a heartbroken hero instead of the wonderful hero he could have been. Your choices will have consequences too. It's so important to trust in God your whole life because He loves you and He is dependable. Even when you make a wrong choice, God will hold on to you and help you ride out any bumpy or scary situation. Life can have twists and turns. It has highs and lows, just like a ride at Sideshow Alley. In Philippians 1:6 it says, "God began doing a good work in you, and I am sure He will continue it until it is finished when Jesus Christ comes again."